All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Sexy Food Therapy TV, and I am so excited because with me today is one of my experts in the Enlighten Movement, and that's Stephan Gardner. Thank you so much, Stephan, for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries.
So I've brought on Stephan Gardner for several reasons. Number one, he's an emotional coach. You can look him up on StephanGardner.com. What I find so amazing about that is the fact that he's helped me quite a bit within my life from personally in understanding relationships, understanding the insecurities in my life that I've grappled with. And what I find is really, really interesting is his thoughts and theories about body transformation. So that's another huge part of it. So we're going to be discussing a lot about that. So Stephan, can you give me a little bit of a lowdown in terms of, your theory behind what you help people and counsel people with?
Well, I mean, specific to body transformation, my theories, I don't necessarily call theories. I think they're just more observation of fact. Often I like to say to most people who challenge the idea that the mind has any control over the body, I get them to just raise your left hand. And everyone can do that, but no one really appreciates what that is. I mean, that's a thought, which is so-called an unreal thing, creating a reaction in a physical world. So if you can do that with your hand, who says you can't do that with your weight, or your brain chemistry, or some injury you have, or a scar? And there's tons of evidence to show, and research that we do as coaches and therapists to show that so you can heal scars with healing memories. You can change body weight by changing your mind. There's all sorts of research to support these things. So I don't really think it's a theory. It's more just a fact-based thing nowadays. But personally, for me, I just look at how I coach people and the people who come to me for help, and usually, about probably 95% of the time, there's a body correlation towards an emotional challenge. And so I look at the mind as a master controller of the body, and the body is responding to that thought process, whatever you're having. And if it's not necessarily the body that you're looking to have, it's probably something in your mind that you're not looking to have at the same time. For example, you might not like your body, but you also might not like the thought that you don't like your body. So there's sort of two levels to everything. And I tend to work with the mind a little bit more than just body stuff.
Yeah.
But I respect body, like nutrition, like that's a key to everything. I mean, if you're putting bad stuff in your body, of course you're not going to be able to think necessarily the best you can. So that's basically my theory. I think it's that the body is just a feedback mechanism for emotions, and if you can listen to it and guide yourself through it, you can have some pretty cool transformations.
And so I know that, working with you on a personal level, we've discussed a lot about this idea of value systems. And I know that you were saying that this is an integral part to the decisions that we make and the experiences that we create for ourselves and so forth. If you can describe a little bit to people, the importance of how this actually affects them from a body transformation perspective.
Well, every human being lives according to a set of values. And it's like a set of priorities of things that are the highest and most important to you to the things that are the least important. And whatever is most important to you, you're going to get done somehow. You might run into challenges along the way, but it doesn't really matter how many challenges you come across, you're going to get it done. So it's like eating every day. At lunchtime or at dinner, we get hungry, we eat. Okay, so eating was the highest priority at that time. So whatever causes you generally the most amount of pain will create the biggest amount of value to go for. So hunger pains is one of those physiological things. But everyone has a set of values. And when you are living according to that set of values, that's when you awaken everything that we could possibly call great about humanity. Positive thoughts, supportive thoughts, all this stuff that we strive for in the psychological realm. That occurs when you live according to that value system. But when you're trying to do something that's not in that value system, that's when things mess up. That's when we get all those things that we're looking to get rid of, going to therapists for and coaches and all these things. reading self-help books all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a self-help section of a bookstore, met somebody there, and within 2 minutes got to what the real values were, showed them why they were trying to live outside the values, and now they don't have the problem anymore. So I tend to think that problems that we experience in our mind and our physiology and our sociology even are there as feedback to let us know where we're not being authentic and true to ourselves. And in body transformation, let's use an example like weight loss, for example.
Yeah.
And it goes into eating poorly and nutrition, all this stuff. But normally, when someone is having a problem changing something about their body, it might be because it can't be changed, like growing back an arm or something. But that's part of life. Mm-hmm. But usually, when they're doing all the right things, they're doing the exercise, they're eating well, everything's going great for that, but it's still not happening.
Totally, and that's a really common thing because I have people where I'm just like, okay, great, and they're working out and they're eating right, and then they lose 10 to 15 pounds, and all of a sudden it stops.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm still doing it, but I don't get why can't I lose that the rest of the 10 pounds? And that is one of the biggest, I know, complaints generally from people is like, not necessarily from the people I counsel, but just, even in the media, how to lose that last 5 to 10 pounds. Why can't they lose it?
It has to do with the values. Think about it this way. If you look at the place you spend the most time, you're going to have things in that space which are important to you and things that aren't important to you. Mm. So most of the time, we tend to take all the stuff that isn't important to us and throw it out or get rid of it or not have it in that space. But then other people will have all sorts of stuff in their space which isn't important to them, but it's just hanging around. So this is sort of a external representation of an internal thing that's happening inside that says, I've got a cluttered mind, I'm not living true to my values, I'm trying to do too many things at once, and my environment is showing me that that's the case, and it's cluttered that way. So what I tend to look at were people who are having difficulty losing weight. I go back in there and I find, okay, why is it specifically that this person has the weight? And most people will say, well, I have no reason for the weight, but that's never true. It wouldn't be there if you didn't have a reason for it. That's like the most important thing you can ever understand about health, is that it wouldn't be there if there wasn't a reason for it. And I can.
Do you believe even like when it comes to do you believe in, I guess, what's called emotional weight? Because a lot of the times, like, I think that people are holding on to something, and I call it emotional weight. And I think the one example that I can give towards that is I had come back from Italy. And a friend of mine, a guy friend of mine that I knew for years, said to me, Melissa, where the heck are you? I need to talk to you immediately. And it was so urgent. And I meet up with him at this restaurant, and there he is outside in the cold pacing. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? And I'm like, okay, are you sick? And he's like, no. I go, did you get someone pregnant? No. And I'm like, okay. Oh my God, you're in love. And he goes, you could say that. And I go, okay. And he goes, Melissa, I'm gay. Shortly after he came out, he dropped about, and when I say this figure, I say it because this is somebody who wasn't just slightly overweight, he had a lot of weight. He lost almost 100 pounds because he was a very large guy. And he goes, what I realized the whole time I was holding on to this emotional weight, almost as a form of protection. So he ended up recognizing some sort of positive behind this weight gain, that I think everybody looks at this weight that they carry and go, oh my God, it's terrible, it's horrible, and then realize a lot of times people use it as a form of protection.
Yeah. People will defend most often what they don't like. That's the most interesting thing I've experienced as a coach. I'll come to a person and I'll say, okay, so you don't want to be depressed anymore, and I'll ask them, great, so why are you depressed? Like, what's in it for you? And they'll say, well, there's nothing in it for me. I said, well, why are you defending what you don't want to get rid of, or what you want to get rid of? It's very true. Emotional weight, it's all the same. If you have weight in your mind, you're going to have weight in your body. It's just a representation of what's happening inside, in your head. Yeah. So, I mean, we can do the nutrition all day, but if we don't have the mind aligned with our intention for nutrition, it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
So it's wiser to ask, what I ask anybody who has a weight challenge or an illness challenge or anything related to the body, I first ask them to write me a list of 50 benefits to having whatever it is they want to get rid of. And most people say, "Oh, there are no benefits," or "I can't write 10, or I can't write 1, or I'm stuck," or whatever. And I force them to go in there and get it. And it might take a lot of thinking, but eventually something clicks, and they just end up doing it. And when they get to 50, they're like, "Okay, I can now see why I have a reason to have this weight." And I said, "Great, now we can work with all those reasons and find a better way to fulfill those reasons." And the minute that happens, there's no need to keep the weight anymore.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest things that I found about value systems is that as soon as you honor, I'll take that a bit further. It's my perception, simply based on my experience, that every person is a genius. So to think that your weight or your body issue, or whatever it is there just because it is dishonoring your own genius. I'm more interested in saying, no, why is it here? What sort of genius strategy is it there to fulfill? And once we understand that, how can we create an alternate solution to get the same amount of benefits, only not in that specific form? And once that happens, amazing stuff can happen in someone's life.
And I think that's really, like, I know that some people out there might be watching it and going like, oh yeah, there's no way. But I honestly do believe in a lot of what you say, only because from a personal perspective, it's helped me a lot where, I'm the first person to say that I've gone through years of therapy in my own life for things that I had personally had grappled with. And then when I'd spoken to you about a lot of the issues that I had been going through, I felt that literally that I had gotten years of, and thousands of dollars of counseling that I was spending money on in such a like short frame of time, which was crazy. And one of the things I remember hearing you speak about, the way that you go about, counseling people. The first question I remember asking you was, well, if it's all based on values, then how do I identify my own values? And this is definitely something that we're going to be speaking about in the live interview with Stephan Gardner. This is a wealth of knowledge, people, and something that is going to be available once the purchase goes up for the Enlighten Movement on December 11th. And we're going to be speaking a little bit more about how do you identify your values. It sounds almost funny when you think to yourself, like, I don't even know what my values are. Well, most of us don't, because if we really did know, we would actually have a better handle of how to be able to deal with all of this, and why we're functioning in these certain ways. So even when you're talking about weight and body transformation and so forth, the same thing goes, I would imagine with, if they've got, because I think body transformation isn't just about weight gain, it's also about, people who have issues with acne, people who have issues with bad digestion, which is whether constipation or diarrhea or rotating between the two. There's always a massive emotional component behind that, and that's essentially what we're going to be working on with you.
Yeah, I had just to share a small story.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who had developed a severe kidney challenge, and she came in, and kidneys are based on filtering. I mean, that's what they do. It's meant to filter toxins and things. And so I got her to list all the things in her life that were stressing her out, all the things in her life that were not right, in the way instead of on the way, all the challenges. And we got about 100 things on this list, and then we just went through like hour after hour after hour, knocking everyone out, just asking a better question, seeing it in a different way, creating a strategy to solve it, whatever we had to do to get it. I work in a whatever it takes system. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll stay up whatever hour to make sure it's finished.
Yeah.
And by the time we were done, it was really interesting because she's on my couch, and she's literally started to feel her entire body change. Like, just the physiology, the energy in herself just changed, and she could feel things almost like flipping around, and things just kind of really interesting feelings. And she could describe it better, but it's interesting because a week after she was scheduled to go in for a checkup for this kidney disorder, and then a week after spending about a day with me, she went back and there was no kidney problem, and that's somewhat interesting to the doctor at the time. But I mean, this is stuff that for me happens almost every other day.
There's a massive connection between the two. It's like, and I know that some people out there might be a bit skeptical and go, oh, this is all woo-woo kind of stuff. It really isn't, because the mind-body connection is so massive. There's been lots of books written about it, but honestly, this is, given how many books I've read about sort of, the emotional component with the physical body, this certainly has been one approach after I spoke with Stephan Gardner that actually I found really made a difference. And it's not to say that, if you have fears about, I don't know, if you have fears about finances or being cheated on, it doesn't mean that those fears might not creep up again, but at least when they do, you're going to have the willpower and knowledge to be able to get over it a heck of a lot faster because you've developed proper coping mechanisms. I remember just really quickly, I had a patient at one point who actually came to me because she couldn't go to the bathroom. She couldn't go to the bathroom, and she's like, I can't. At that point, she hadn't gone in a week. Okay, that's substantial. And she left my office, and I was like, okay, and I gave her sort of a plan. She called me a week later and told me it got to a point that I hadn't gone in almost 2 weeks. She had gone to the hospital to get an enema. She went back home. She still hadn't gone for a couple of days after that. And what she ended up doing was she called me and she said to me, I'll be honest with you, there's something I didn't tell you. And I said, okay. She goes, I was raped. And I go, okay. And she's like, and I actually ended up going to the bathroom. I go, well, that's a positive thing. She's like, well, yeah. She's like, and you know what the funny thing about this story was? I said, what? She's like, I went to the bathroom after I finally told somebody. So she told her roommate. Right after she told her roommate, she went to the bathroom. And a lot of people don't think that there is a big mind-body connection, but especially after speaking to you, I certainly have had massive things, especially when it came to constipation. A lot of the times it was something that I was really grappling with, that I did not, it was kind of this idea of not being able to let go and holding on. But the second I did, it was like, okay, pipes are clean.
Yeah, holding on and in expression. The biggest things that cause body challenges are holding on to things and not expressing them. And they're just the two most common things, because when you're holding on to thoughts and feelings, your body's going to hold on to stuff, toxins or fats or whatever. And then you've got inexpression, so when you're not expressing these feelings or getting them out, or at least talking to someone about it, or getting them off your chest, writing them down even, it's going to build up again, and your body's not going to be able to express itself in the right way. So a lot of times you've got a person who doesn't want to express themselves, and their throat will clog up, or something will happen and they won't be able to. I get this all the time. I mean, I had a person the other day had back pain. When they came in to see me, and they're like, "Oh my God, this pain is the worst I've ever had." I said, "Okay, so what can't you do because of this?" And she says, "Well, I can't move." I said, "Okay, so where were you going to go that you really didn't want to go to, but you were too scared to say anything?" And she said, "Well, I was actually going to go volunteer at this political party office, but I mean, I really didn't want to go do it because it's volunteer, and my husband's judging me for doing all this volunteer stuff." I said, "Okay, so you really didn't want to go, did you?" She says, "No." I said, "Okay, so, but you weren't willing to stand up for yourself and say, 'No, I'm not coming in,' and this kind of thing, and stand up to the peers." And because of that, she creates a back pain to stop her from going.
Absolutely.
And as soon as we got that out, suddenly the back pain's gone, that second, right? So, I mean, I just look at it as such a simple fact of life, that the body is reflective of your psychological state. When you don't know your values in your psychological state, you're definitely going to have challenges, but that's pretty much 99% of people. But if you do, and then you learn how to ask better questions to align things in your life that would normally be not aligned into alignment in yourself, magical things can happen in your life in any way.
Wonderful. And so, I mean, so just to recap for everybody there, this is Stephan Gardner from StephanGardner.com. How can people contact you? They can contact you through the website. So how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's, my website kind of has everything on the front page. There's my Facebook page, my Twitter account, YouTube, and all that. Email is on there too, newsletter. Contact form is all there. And then my email, I think, is on one of the pages there, but I can put it up. And I'm open to open. I'm pretty much open on all hours. I've dedicated my life to helping people. It's a long story for how it got to that point, but I mean, I'm the guy who's known to stay up, 22, 24 hours to help somebody, and that's just what I do. I love doing it, and I tend not to stop until it's finished.
And I think it's really great because I know that the work that you do, just personally, because I've worked with you with my own personal stuff, is that you really do essentially give homework to people. And I know because I've had homework where I sat there for like hours working on stuff, but like, so this is a component that for the program we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to identify your values in a full up interview. And I know that you're also giving away a free consult with somebody. So super invaluable stuff, guys. Definitely RSVP. You have that chance until doors open for purchase on December 11th. Where you're going to be getting some information to get you kind of started, like prepped at least. But then we're going to be pressing the go button where we're all collectively going to start for the New Year's, for the Enlighten Movement, because this New Year's we're going to be forgetting about resolutions, which I think are BS, and going to be joining a revolution that I actually think makes sense. So thank you so much, Stephan. I really, really appreciate your time today. Again, guys, check him out, StephanGardner.com, to get a little bit more of an insight on what he does. And if you haven't RSVP'd to Enlighten Movement, please do. The website is going to be below. All right, thank you so much, and have yourself a good day. Bye.